Many people know The Lord of the Rings as an epic tale of heroes, battles, and magic, but what few realize is that behind it all, from the elves to the shadows of Sauron, lies a supreme force that governs every event in Middle-earth, Eru Ilúvatar. Without him, there would be no Gandalf, no Frodo, not even the One Ring. It all began in his mind, in a grand cosmic symphony where every note composed the destiny of the world. But Ilúvatar wasn't just a distant creator like some mythological god who abandons his creation to its fate. He directly influenced the destiny of great kingdoms, shaped the most unexpected events, and at crucial moments intervened decisively. He was the unseen force behind the rise and fall of Númenor, Gandalf's resurrection, and even Sauron's destruction. Nothing escaped his sight, and everything was part of a plan much larger than we can imagine. Now here's the big question. Was Frodo's journey really a choice, or was it all predestined by Ilúvatar? Did Melkor, the first rebel, truly have free will, or was his rebellion already woven into the grand melody of the universe? And furthermore, when Tolkien created this supreme entity, was he telling us something even greater about our own real world? If you think you know The Lord of the Rings, get ready to see the story from a whole new perspective. Let's dive deep into the creation of Middle-earth and unveil the secrets of the one who planned it all. In the end, you'll never look at a Tolkien the same way again. Since time immemorial, before Middle-earth existed, before any elf or man breathed the air of Arda, there was only the thought of Eru Ilúvatar. In his infinite wisdom, he conceived the Ainur, immortal beings who emerged from his mind, each carrying a spark of the divine. But mere conception was not enough. Ilúvatar desired that his creation take shape, that the cosmos come alive. And so, he proposed a great music, a cosmic symphony, in which each Ainu would contribute their melody to form something far greater than any one of them could imagine alone. The music began harmoniously, a celestial chorus echoing through the void. Each Ainu added their note, their part, and together they created a spectacle of indescribable beauty. However, in the heart of one of them, Melkor, a hunger for something more, was born. He introduced a different, dissonant melody, trying to impose his own vision. It was like a musician in a perfect orchestra deciding to play his own symphony, expecting to dominate the composition. But Ilúvatar, in his wisdom, did not stop him. He simply responded with new melodies, deeper and broader, that absorbed and transformed Melkor's attempts. And so, the music culminated in something unexpected. The universe itself became real. What was once mere sound now took on form, time and space. It was as if Ilúvatar was saying, "You sang, now live with what you have created." Think of it like an author who crafts a story full of characters and conflicts and one day discovers that everything he imagined now exists, tangible and undeniable. This was Ilúvatar's first great act, turning imagination into reality. The lesson behind this? Everything begins in thought, in concept, in the idea. Tolkien's universe, Middle-earth itself, came into being because it was first conceived, then expressed and finally given existence. This is how any great accomplishment happens: a book, a business, a destiny. What do you want to create? What are you nurturing in your thoughts? Because believe it or not, even the greatest civilizations start from a mere flash of an idea, but creation wouldn't sustain itself alone. An essential element was needed, that divine spark which would truly bring the world to life. This is where we get to the next point, the secret fire and the true power of the Ainur. At the heart of creation lay an even greater mystery. The secret fire, or the imperishable flame, the primordial force that truly imbued things with life. Only Eru Ilúvatar held this power, and not even the Ainur, the great spirits he created, could access it without his permission. Think of it as the difference between designing something and actually giving it existence. An artist might envision a masterpiece, but without paint and brushes, it would never become real. The secret fire was that cosmic paint, and it was in Ilúvatar's hands. However, the Ainur were given a crucial role. Some of them, the most powerful, descended into Arda, the forming Middle Earth, to shape and govern it according to Ilúvatar's will. They became the Valar, the ruling forces of the world, each with their own particular affinity. Manwe, the Lord of Winds and Air, led the Valar, while Ulmo, Lord of Waters, shaped the oceans. Aule, Master of Craftsmen, forged the very bones of the earth. Each played an essential role, almost like pieces on a cosmic chessboard, where every move was necessary to keep creation in balance. But here's a fascinating detail. Melkor, the mightiest of the Ainur, coveted the secret fire for himself. He scoured the depths of the universe in search of it, but to no avail. Ilúvatar never revealed it to him. It's a striking parallel to unbridled human ambition. So many try to grasp what isn't theirs, seeking shortcuts to a power they cannot handle. Deep down, Tolkien's great lesson is that there are forces that simply cannot be seized by force, but only granted. And then there were the Maiar, lesser spirits who aided the Valar. Among them were figures who would shape the destiny of Middle-earth in the future: Gandalf, the wise wanderer; Sauron, Melkor's corrupted servant; and even the Balrogs, ancient Maiar, who succumbed to their master's dark power. See how it all fits together? What began as a simple thought in Ilúvatar's mind now took shape in hierarchies, roles, and conflicts that would echo through the ages. Yet all this order, this carefully woven structure, would soon face a great challenge: the chaos of the great music and Melkor's rebellion. Because no matter how perfect a plan may be, there will always be an element that tries to challenge it. In the beginning, the Ainur symphony was harmonious, flowing like a crystal-clear river under the baton of Eru Ilúvatar. Every Ainu played their part in the cosmic melody, a creative spectacle where each note represented a fragment of the divine vision. But then, as is often the case in every great story, the dissenter emerged. Melkor, the mightiest of the Ainur, began weaving his own melody, different from that of his brethren. At first it was just a slight deviation, a distinct sound amid the harmony, but soon his music grew louder and more intense, trying to dominate the original symphony. Ilúvatar, however, did not stop him. On the contrary, he introduced new melodies, deeper and richer, that responded to Melkor's rebellion without ever completely yielding to it. It was as if he was saying, "You may try to change the course, but destiny will always find its way." This teaches us a powerful truth. Sometimes the very forces that try to lead us astray may unknowingly be contributing to a greater purpose. The universe of Middle-earth itself was shaped by Melkor's rebellion, and in the end, he could not destroy Ilúvatar's vision. He merely gave it a new direction. This moment is a direct reflection of life. How many times does something unexpected happen, threatening our plans? That lost job, a failed relationship, a promising project that crumbles. Yet just like Ilúvatar's music, there is always a new melody waiting to take shape. The secret is to understand that discord is not the end. It's merely a change in the symphony. And Melkor, he believed he was defying Ilúvatar, imposing his own will. But what he failed to realize was that, in the end, he was still part of the great music. Nothing escapes the design of Eru Ilúvatar. This becomes evident when we look at the fall of Númenor, the journey of the One Ring, and even the unexpected redemption of Gollum. What seemed like chaos was, in fact, part of a larger plan, invisible to mortal eyes. And so creation unfolded, and the Ainur saw their music transformed into something tangible. Arda had taken shape, but the next step would be even more magnificent. For some of the Ainur would take it upon themselves to descend into the world and mold it with their own hands. And then, my friend, we enter the realm of the Valar. When Arda took shape, not all the Ainur remained as distant observers. Some, driven by the desire to shape creation with their own hands, descended into the world and became the Valar, the great guardians of Middle-earth. They were not gods in the absolute sense, but powerful beings, almost like regents appointed by Eru Ilúvatar to ensure that the grand melody of creation continued to flow. Among them was Manwe, the noblest of them all, the one who best understood Ilúvatar's will and governed the skies with wisdom. Each Valar had a specific domain, as if they were parts of a divine machine. Ulmo, Lord of Waters, never built a fixed abode, preferring instead to wander the oceans and influence events by whispering to the hearts of mortal peoples. Orle, the smith, shaped mountains and metals, eager to create, yet always mindful of Ilúvatar's authority, a lesson in how the desire to build must be balanced by patience. Yavanna, the Lady of Earth, caused trees and fields to spring forth, ensuring that life flourished. It was a true cosmic council, each contributing an essential aspect of reality, but not all the Valar were pure in intention. Melkor, who also descended into Arda, did not come to protect it, but to dominate it. He desired to reign alone, distorting creation for his own purposes. His influence was felt from the very beginning, spreading chaos and destruction, violently shaping mountains and casting darkness over newborn lands. If the Valar were the world's architects, then Melkor was the demolisher, always trying to rewrite Ilúvatar's work in his own image. Even so, the Valar never gave up. They built Valinor, the sacred land where the light of the trees radiated purity, a refuge against the shadows that Melkor cast over the world. And while the Valar attempted to guide Arda's destiny, they knew that something greater was to come. Creation was not yet complete, for Ilúvatar reserved a mystery that would change everything: the children of Ilúvatar, elves and men. The burning question was this: when the first sentient beings awoke, which path would they choose? And how would the Valar handle a world where the freedom of Ilúvatar's children might even challenge the very guardians of creation? The great moment finally arrived. No matter how much the Valar molded mountains, rivers, and skies, creation was still incomplete. For Eru Ilúvatar's true purpose was not found in Ulmo's seas, Aule's forges, or Yavanna's vast forests. The apex of the cosmic symphony was reserved for his children, the elves, the firstborn, and men, the seconds. They were not created by the Valar. Their essence came directly from Ilúvatar's mind, and this distinction was crucial. While the Ainur followed the divine plan, the children of Ilúvatar possessed something unique: the gift of freedom. Titi, elves were the first to awaken under the stars, for the sun and moon had not yet been created. They were immortal, bound to the fate of Middle-earth, and their existence seemed to mirror the very beauty of Arda. They were talented, wise, and deeply connected to the magic of the world. Yet with all that grandeur, they also bore the weight of tragedy. Their deeds would echo through the millennia, and their choices would shape both the glory and decline of the elven realms. Just look at the fall of Feanor and the curse of the Noldor to understand the impact of elven decisions on the course of history. Men, the seconds, received a different gift. They were not immortal like the elves, but they possessed something that made them unique: the gift of mortality. To the Valar, this was an unfathomable mystery, for they did not know what became of human spirits after death. Ilúvatar had reserved that secret for himself. Yet this limitation also became a strength. Men were free to forge their own destinies, not bound to the world forever. They erred more, but they also had the capacity to change, evolve, and rebuild. And like every great creation, there was an initial deviation. Aule, impatient to see living beings walking among his mountains and caverns, decided to create the dwarves. But his work lacked the spark of true life. The dwarves were hardy, strong, but without free will. Instead of destroying them, Ilúvatar blessed them with true existence, decreeing that they would awaken only after the elves. Thus the dwarves became a distinct race, forged of stone and iron, with hearts as hard as mountains. With the elves, men, and dwarves finally on stage, the board was set. But there was something even the Valar hadn't foreseen. Yavanna, worried about the destruction of forests, turned to Ilúvatar with one last plea. And that's when those who would walk among the trees as their guardians emerged. The Ents as. The elves and men awoke to shape their own destinies. Something troubled Yavanna, the Lady of Nature. She watched with sorrow as the trees and forests she loved so dearly risked being destroyed by the advance of the new races. For if Aule's children, the dwarves, already had a special knack for mining and shaping stone, what would stop future peoples from ravaging the forest to build their cities? Yavanna knew that to protect her creations, something had to be done. So she turned to Eru Ilúvatar and made her request. Ilúvatar heard her plea and, as always, responded in an unexpected way. He granted life to the Ents, the shepherds of the trees. These giant, wise beings would not only exist but would have their own consciousness, their own language, and a purpose to protect the forests of Arda. They were not merely animated trees, but creatures endowed with intelligence and almost infinite patience. Their speech was slow, their thoughts flowed like a calm river, and when roused, their anger was as devastating as a storm. Thus the Ents became the guardians of Middle-earth's vast forests, living in harmony with the natural world. They witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, yet they remained ever watchful, ever waiting. Treebeard, the oldest and wisest of them all, would say that the Ents were a patient race, but one that never forgot. And indeed, when their forests were threatened, as in the desolation of Fangorn, their wrath was so overwhelming that even Saruman, a powerful Maya, could not stand against it. There's something deeply symbolic about this. In our real world, humanity's progress has always clashed with nature's preservation. How many forests have fallen to make way for cities and industries? But Tolkien teaches us a powerful truth. Nature has its own voice, and ignoring it can have irreversible consequences. The Ents not only protected their trees, they were the very soul of the forests. And so, while the Ents walked silently among the trees of Arda, another kind of influence made itself known. For although Ilúvatar remained distant, he was never indifferent to Middle-earth's destiny. He would intervene at crucial moments, changing the course of history when the shadow threatened to consume it. And the first great example of this was in the fate of Beren and Luthien. As transcendent as Eru Ilúvatar was, far beyond the mundane concerns of Middle-earth, he was never absent. There were moments when the grand symphony of creation needed his direct intervention, like a conductor who notices a deviation and with a simple gesture realigns the entire orchestra. One such moment occurred in the story of Beren and Luthien, a love so powerful it defied destiny itself. Beren, a simple mortal, dared to love Luthien, the fairest of the elves. Their love was deemed impossible by the world, for elves and men were fated for different destinies, yet Luthien's heart knew no bounds. When her father Thingol imposed an insurmountable challenge, retrieving a Silmaril from Morgoth's crown, Ilúvatar already knew that this love would alter the course of Middle-earth forever. Against all odds, Beren fulfilled his quest, and Lúthien, refusing to live without him, blazed a trail even into the halls of death. And then, something unprecedented happened. Ilúvatar allowed her to choose to share the fate of men, renouncing her immortality. If that isn't a metaphor for the transformative power of love and will, what is? Tolkien shows us that the limits we deem insurmountable are merely challenges waiting to be overcome. How many times have we been told something was impossible, only to see someone achieve it? The love of Beren and Lúthien not only transcended death, it shaped the destiny of future generations, culminating in the birth of Elrond and, long after, Aragorn and Arwen. Another great intervention of Ilúvatar was in the fall of Númenor. The men of that island, descendants of the greatest warriors of the First Age, had received a divine gift, a prosperous land and a lifespan longer than that of ordinary mortals. Yet, as always, ambition proved to be a double-edged sword. Ar-Pharazôn, the last king of Númenor, was poisoned by Sauron's lies, convinced he could defy even the Valar and attain immortality. Thus, he launched his fleet against Valinor, trying to seize what never belonged to him, and Ilúvatar responded. With an act of pure divine authority, he altered the geography of the world, sinking Númenor beneath the waves and forever separating Valinor from Middle-earth. No army, no spell could have halted this judgment. Here is one of Tolkien's great messages. When human arrogance challenges the natural limits of the world, the fall is inevitable. But Ilúvatar wasn't limited to destruction and punishment. He also restored, guided, and strengthened. And this was made clear when a certain grey wizard fell into the depths of Moria, only to rise again as something much greater. Gandalf's fall in the abyss of Moria was one of the most striking moments in Middle-earth's history. When he faced the Balrog of Morgoth, few expected the Grey Wizard to emerge victorious. And indeed, he fell, cast into deep shadows, battling. A creature that had lived since the dawn of creation, he disappeared from the world of the living. For many, that was the end, but Eru Ilúvatar still had plans for him. For Gandalf's death was not an end, but a transition. In the realms beyond mortal and even elven perception, he was renewed by Ilúvatar himself. Like a flame that dies only to burst forth even brighter, Gandalf returned, not as Gandalf the Grey, but as Gandalf the White. He had been transformed, purified, elevated to a new purpose, the same essence, but now with far greater power. This teaches us a powerful truth. Sometimes you have to fall to become something greater. In life, there are moments of loss, failure, and pain, but for those who persevere, these moments can become rebirths. Think of the great visionaries, artists, and leaders who emerge from profound crises before finding their true calling. Just like Gandalf, they had to traverse darkness before emerging stronger. Gandalf returned to fulfill his mission. Once, he was a guide, a counselor. Now, he was a leader. Saruman had failed, corrupted by his lust for power, and Gandalf's mission was to take the place left by the former head of the Astari. There was no more hesitation. He was ready to face Sauron, ready to inspire the free peoples of Middle-earth, ready to be Ilúvatar's instrument in the final war against the shadows. But even Gandalf, with all his wisdom, could not foresee exactly how Sauron's evil would be vanquished, for Ilúvatar worked in subtle ways, employing even the most unlikely of creatures to fulfill his will. And in this case, the fate of Middle-earth lay in the hands of a fragile and tormented creature called Gollum. For countless years, Sauron, Melkor's greatest servant, built his dark empire, pinning all his hopes on a single object, the One Ring. With it, he could subjugate all of Middle-earth, corrupt kings, and bend armies to his will. Yet, what he never realized was that his destiny was beyond his control. For although he was a master strategist and manipulator, Ilúvatar had already woven the conclusion of this story into his great symphony. The journey of the ring was full of surprises. Frodo, the chosen bearer, was small and fragile, a hobbit from an unassuming village. He was not a warrior, a king, or a great wizard, but precisely for that reason, Ilúvatar chose him. True strength does not always come from power, but from resilience, purity of heart, and courage in the face of the impossible. Just like in our own lives, sometimes the greatest changes come not from the strongest, but from the most unlikely. And then, at the decisive moment, when Frodo stood before the fires of Mount Doom, something happened. The ring prevailed. Frodo could not resist its influence, just as Sauron had foreseen. He did not destroy it, he claimed it. But mind you, the story wasn't meant to end there. For Ilúvatar had already set an invisible agent into the plot, Gollum. The creature, driven by his obsession, attacked Frodo and, in the final struggle, seized the ring, only to stumble and fall into the burning flames. And so, Sauron was defeated. Not by the might of armies, nor by the sword of kings, but by destiny, by the inexorable flow of Ilúvatar's symphony. He never anticipated that his own corruption would forge the instrument of his downfall. Gollum, the creature he helped deform, became his undoing. The great Dark Lord, who commanded countless legions, fell because of the smallest and most wretched of his subjects. If that isn't a lesson about how blinded arrogance can lead to one's own destruction, what is? The destruction of the ring closed one era, yet Middle-earth was still not free of its history. For the cycles of creation and destruction never cease. Just as there was a first music, there would be a second, and, at some point in the future, a new cosmic song would echo through the farthest reaches of existence. The story of Middle-earth, no matter how grand, was not the end. For Ilúvatar, from the very beginning, had conceived a destiny beyond time and space. Just as the world was born from the great music, one day it would be remade in a new melody, a final, perfect, and unchanging symphony. The wise called this prophecy Dagor-Dagorath, the last battle, where evil would be eradicated forever and a new age would dawn. In that final battle, Morgoth, the first Dark Lord, would return from the void where he had been imprisoned by the Valar. He would no longer have the legions of old, but his very existence would challenge the world's harmony. The descendants of the great kings of elves and men would rise one last time, and then Turin-Turambar, the tragic hero of the First Age, would wield his black sword and deliver the final blow to Morgoth, destroying him forever. But Dagor-Dagorath was not just a war. It was the harbinger of something even greater. For after Morgoth's fall, Ilúvatar's second music would be played. This new symphony would have none of the flaws of the first. There would be no more Melkor's dissonance, no shadow to corrupt the melody. Everything would be remade in perfection. Middle-earth, Arda, the skies and the oceans, all would be renewed, restored to the original glory that Ilúvatar had always envisioned. And here lies Tolkien's final lesson. Creation is a cycle. Nothing ever truly ends. Everything transforms, is reborn. Just as the destruction of Númenor was not the end for men, nor was the fall of Gondolin the erasure of the elves. Just as Sauron's defeat did not put an end to the world's challenges, the universe itself will one day be remade. This is a profound message. For every failure there is a new beginning, for every loss, a renewal. And so, while the first music was a journey of learning, of trial and error, the second music will be the full realization of Ilúvatar's thought. What began one day with a single chord in the void will culminate in an endless harmony. The destiny of Arda was always inscribed in the Creator's melody, and one day, when the final chord is struck, the world will be complete. Now that you know the true force behind Middle-earth, the question remains, what does this mean for you? If there's one thing Tolkien's mythology teaches us, it's that every event, even moments of chaos, carries a greater purpose. Every challenge, every choice, every apparent coincidence might be leading to a destiny beyond our wildest dreams. Could it be that the difficulties you face today are part of your own grand music? And what if Tolkien was showing us that, just like the characters in his stories, we too have a role to play? Frodo didn't choose to bear the One Ring, but he accepted the challenge. Gandalf fell, only to come back stronger. The Valar tried to stop Melkor, yet in the end, even his rebellion was part of something larger. What is your mission? What are you building that might echo beyond your lifetime? Ilúvatar's final message isn't about a fixed destiny, but about how every choice composes a grander symphony. And you, sitting here now, have the power to decide which melody you want to play in your life. Will you be the protagonist, or will you just watch from the sidelines as the story unfolds? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the essence of Middle-earth's creation, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There are still many of Tolkien's secrets left for us to explore together, because in the end, every great story needs great listeners, and you are a part of this journey.